Seems like Europe should be winning the technology race. The continent invented the World Wide Web. It helped build the modern internet. It created some of the most advanced engineering companies on Earth. Its economy is worth over $20 trillion. Its scientists produce nearly a quarter of global scientific research. And yet, when it comes to technology, Europe has become a spectator. The companies shaping the future are not European. They are American or Chinese. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, OpenAI, Tencent, Alibaba, ByteDance. Europe is missing from that list, and the gap is becoming larger every year. This isn't because Europe lacks talent, it isn't because Europe lacks money, and it certainly isn't because Europe lacks innovation. The real problem is something much more dangerous. Europe has learned how to invent, but it has never learned how to scale. And in the modern economy, scale is everything. Because the biggest technology companies don't just sell products, they build ecosystems. They control infrastructure. They attract talent. They shape regulation. They influence governments. And increasingly, they determine which countries become richer and which countries fall behind. To understand why Europe is losing the technology race, we need to understand a paradox that has existed for decades. Economists call it the European innovation paradox. Europe consistently produces world-class inventions, yet somehow other countries capture most of the economic value. Take the World Wide Web. Invented by Tim Berners-Lee at CERN in Switzerland, one of the most important inventions in human history. But the largest internet companies that emerged from it were American: Google, Amazon, Meta, Netflix. Europe created the foundation. America captured the value. The same story repeated with smartphones. ARM, the British chip architecture company, created the technology powering almost every smartphone on Earth. More than 99% of smartphones use ARM designs. Yet ARM never became the trillion-dollar giant that Nvidia or Apple became. The same thing happened with artificial intelligence. DeepMind was founded in London. Many of the world's most important AI breakthroughs came from DeepMind researchers. But before it could become a European champion, it was acquired by Google. The value moved to America. The pattern repeats again and again. Europe creates, America scales. Europe invents, America monetizes. And China manufactures. But how big is the problem really? The answer becomes clear when we examine the numbers. At first glance, Europe appears successful. According to Dealroom and CB Insights, Europe has produced around 350 unicorns. A unicorn is a startup worth more than $1 billion. Countries like Britain, Germany, France, Sweden, and the Netherlands have created thriving startup ecosystems. London alone has produced dozens of billion-dollar companies. Stockholm created Spotify, Klarna, and Skype. Berlin became one of Europe's startup capitals. On the surface, everything looks healthy. Europe generates between 15 and 25% of the world's unicorns. Not bad. But then something strange happens. The higher you move up the value chain, the smaller Europe's presence becomes. At $10 billion, the cracks begin to appear. Europe has created around 42 decacorns, companies worth more than $10 billion. The United States created more than 130, more than 3 times as many. China created nearly as many as Europe, despite entering the technology race decades later. And then comes the most important threshold: $100 billion. The level where companies stop being successful businesses and become global powers. At this level, Europe virtually disappears. Not a single European startup has reached a valuation above $100 billion while remaining independent. Not one. For more than 50 years. Meanwhile, the United States created Apple, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, Meta, Tesla, Nvidia, Oracle, Salesforce, and many others. China created Alibaba, Tencent, ByteDance, Meituan, PDD Holdings. Europe created none. Zero. That is not a coincidence. That is a structural problem. And it raises an important question. Why can Europe create billion-dollar companies, but not $100 billion companies? Why does growth suddenly stop? The answer begins with capital. Money. Lots of money. Modern technology companies require astonishing amounts of capital. OpenAI reportedly burns billions of dollars every year. Meta is spending tens of billions annually on artificial intelligence infrastructure. Amazon invested heavily for decades before becoming profitable. Tesla survived years of losses because investors kept funding its growth. In technology, scale often comes before profits. You spend first, you dominate later. European startups face a different reality. According to Atomico's State of European Tech report, growth stage funding rounds in Europe remain significantly smaller than comparable rounds in the United States. At the seed stage, the gap is manageable. At Series A, it becomes noticeable. At Series B, it grows larger. By the time companies require hundreds of millions of dollars, the gap becomes enormous. American venture capital firms routinely write checks worth hundreds of millions, sometimes billions. European investors rarely operate at that scale. As a result, many promising European startups eventually face a difficult decision: accept American capital, move headquarters to America, sell to a larger company, or slow down growth. Each option weakens Europe's ability to create global champions. Ironically, Europe is not poor. Far from it. European pension funds collectively manage more than 3 trillion euros. Insurance funds manage even more. The problem is allocation. Much of this money never reaches high-growth technology companies. American pension funds embraced venture capital decades ago. European institutions remained conservative. The money exists, but it doesn't flow where innovation happens. This creates what some analysts call Europe's growth capital gap, a gap that becomes larger as companies become more successful. And it is one of the biggest reasons why European startups often sell themselves long before reaching their full potential. But money alone does not explain everything. The second problem is fragmentation. America is one market. Europe is many markets pretending to be one. An entrepreneur in California launches a company. Immediately, they gain access to more than 330 million consumers. One language, one currency, one legal framework, one regulatory environment, one culture. Europe looks very different. 27 member states, 24 official languages, different tax systems, different labor laws, different consumer preferences, different financial regulations, different licensing requirements. A fintech company operating in France faces different challenges entering Germany. Germany presents different requirements from Italy. Italy differs from Spain. Spain differs from Poland. And every new market adds complexity. Imagine trying to build Amazon while needing to adapt your operations for dozens of jurisdictions. That is Europe's reality. The European Union has made progress through the single market, but significant barriers remain, especially for fast-growing technology companies. This fragmentation acts like a hidden tax, a tax on ambition, a tax on speed, a tax on scale. And in technology, speed matters, because digital markets often become winner-takes-most markets. The company that reaches scale first usually captures the majority of value. Google reached scale first. Facebook reached scale first. Amazon reached scale first. TikTok reached scale first. Technology rewards acceleration. Europe introduces friction. The third structural barrier is talent, or more specifically, the ability to retain it. Europe produces exceptional talent. Some of the world's best engineers graduate from European universities. The continent attracts brilliant researchers. Its scientific institutions are world-class. Yet many of these people eventually leave. The destination is often the same: the United States, especially Silicon Valley. Why? Because Silicon Valley offers something few places can match: the possibility of extraordinary upside. An engineer joining an American startup may receive stock options worth millions, sometimes tens of millions, in rare cases hundreds of millions. That possibility changes behavior. It attracts risk takers. It rewards ambition. It encourages entrepreneurship. Europe struggles to offer similar incentives. Stock option rules remain fragmented. Tax systems vary dramatically. In some countries, employees face taxes before receiving liquidity. The result is predictable. The most ambitious founders migrate. The most talented engineers migrate. The most experienced operators migrate. And once they leave, they strengthen competing ecosystems. This creates a feedback loop. Success attracts talent. Talent creates success. Success creates investors. Investors create new companies. The ecosystem compounds. Silicon Valley has benefited from this process for decades. Europe has not. The consequences extend beyond startup valuations. They affect economic growth itself. For years, productivity growth in Europe has lagged behind the United States. Technology explains much of this difference. The world's most valuable companies are increasingly digital. Software, cloud computing, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, digital platforms. These industries generate extraordinary wealth, and Europe participates only marginally. The absence of technology giants creates massive opportunity costs. Imagine if Europe had built its own Google, its own Amazon, its own Nvidia, its own Meta. Together, these companies would employ hundreds of thousands of Europeans, generate billions in tax revenue, fund thousands of startups, support entire supplier ecosystems. Instead, much of that value flows abroad. According to McKinsey, digital platforms capture roughly 70% of the value they create. When European consumers and businesses depend on foreign platforms, a significant portion of economic value leaves the continent. This isn't simply an economic issue. It is increasingly a geopolitical issue. Technology has become infrastructure. Cloud computing powers governments. Artificial intelligence influences defense. Semiconductors determine industrial competitiveness. Data shapes national security. Countries that control these technologies possess strategic advantages. Countries that depend on foreign technology become vulnerable. Europe understands this better than most. The energy crisis following Russia's invasion of Ukraine demonstrated the risks of dependency. Technology may represent the next dependency challenge. Today, much of Europe's cloud infrastructure relies on American companies. Much of its semiconductor manufacturing relies on Asia. Many of its digital platforms are controlled abroad. The continent that invented the web increasingly rents the digital future from others. And yet, despite all these challenges, Europe is far from irrelevant. In fact, some of the most important technologies in the world remain European. Consider ASML, a company most people have never heard of. Yet without ASML, modern artificial intelligence would not exist. ASML produces extreme ultraviolet lithography machines, the most advanced chip-making equipment ever built. Each machine costs hundreds of millions of dollars, contains hundreds of thousands of components, and takes years to manufacture. No competitor can currently replicate them. Without ASML, companies like Nvidia, TSMC, and Samsung cannot produce advanced chips. This gives Europe enormous strategic importance. The continent also leads in industrial automation, precision engineering, advanced manufacturing, climate technologies, quantum research, medical innovation. Europe remains incredibly innovative. Its problem is not invention. Its problem is commercialization. The continent repeatedly creates technologies that change the world, but too often someone else captures the rewards. Artificial intelligence may determine whether this pattern continues, because AI is not just another technology. It may become the defining technology of the 21st century, much like electricity, much like the internet. Countries leading AI will gain advantages across healthcare, defense, manufacturing, education, and finance. The United States is investing heavily. China is investing heavily. Europe is investing too, but from a weaker position. The risk is not that Europe stops innovating. The risk is that Europe becomes dependent on foreign AI models, dependent on foreign cloud providers, dependent on foreign platforms, dependent on technologies developed elsewhere. And dependency has consequences: economic consequences, political consequences, strategic consequences. This is why the debate surrounding Europe's technology future matters so much. It is not about startup valuations. It is not about venture capital rankings. It is about whether Europe remains a technology creator or becomes merely a technology consumer. The continent still possesses extraordinary advantages: world-class universities, world-class talent, world-class infrastructure, world-class research. But those advantages must be translated into scale, because in the 21st century, innovation alone is not enough. Ideas matter, but execution matters more, and scale matters most. For decades, Europe has proven it can generate ideas. The next challenge is proving it can build giants, because creating a billion-dollar company is impressive. Creating a $10 billion company is exceptional. But creating a $100 billion company changes history. For more than half a century, Europe has failed to do that. And until it solves that problem, the continent that helped invent the digital world may continue watching the future being built somewhere else.